Girls over flowers. This story comes from the diary of Vanang. Just like a Korean film, the title of the story has nothing to do with the actual story in any way. Vanang was a pretty girl, bursting with confidence and pride. She loved learning at her wonderful English teacher Paul's school because he was so intelligent and handsome. Anyway, one day she won a competition to visit Korea, and she was over the moon with happiness at the thought of travelling to a wonderful new place. She didn't hesitate and packed her bags with haste. Her head was filled with dreams of meeting a handsome Korean boy and the two of them falling in love at first sight. Her family all cried as they went through to the checkout area. "Stay safe, my little princess. We all love you, little fluffy baby," they yelled as she disappeared from sight. Vanang boarded the airplane and gave the stewardess the ticket. "Oh, I'm sorry, but your seat has been taken by another passenger. We will have to move you to first class. Is that okay?" said the flight attendant in a caring voice. She nodded her head quickly and scampered quickly down the aisle to her seat. The seat was massive and so comfy that she fell asleep before the plane had even left the runway. An hour later, she was awoken gently by the stewardess. "Your meal is here," she said while placing a huge plate of delicious food in front of Vanang. Vanang smiled quietly to herself. "I am so lucky. I have beauty and intelligence and things could not be better," she thought as she relaxed in her seat. A few hours later, the plane touched down in Seoul, and she hopped up from her seat and left the plane quickly. The air smelt lovely, just like flowers. In the airport, she collected her things and walked through the doors and into the cool air of the autumn. "Excuse me, are you Miss Vanang?" a voice said loudly. Vanang turned around and saw a driver holding a large cardboard sign with her name written on it in black felt-tip pen. He showed her to a waiting limo, and she lurched inside like a rabbit down a hole. The seats were softer than the aeroplane, and the smell of leather was delightful. She sat back and viewed the scenery as they drove along the highway to her hotel. She could not believe her eyes. When they arrived at the hotel, it was massive. She checked in and then went up to her room. The room was filled with flowers and fresh fruit. That evening, she went down to the dining room for dinner, and she was given the best table and told that she could order anything on the menu because it was all delicious. After an hour, Vanang was stuffed and could not eat another bite. She left the table and waddled towards the lift to go back to her room. "Excuse me, miss, your limousine is here to take you to the club," the hotel manager said softly. Vanang looked surprised, but didn't argue with him. She turned around and walked outside to the waiting car and got inside. The club was amazing. It was even better than the nightclubs she had seen in movies, 1,000,000 times better than the disco she had been to in Hanoi. Everyone thought that she was much older than her age, and they kept offering her champagne and cocktails, but she refused them all before sitting down in a quiet corner of the club. Vanang looked around the room. It was difficult telling who were boys and who were girls, but she remembered what her wise teacher once told her. If they have an Adam's apple, then they're male. Then suddenly someone sat next to her. "Wow, you are so beautiful," he said in a soft and gentle voice. Vanang looked and was happy to see an Adam's apple protruding from his neck. The young man introduced himself as Soon Be Gone and told her all of the things girls wanted to hear. She smiled and agreed with everything he said. Then after only an hour, he got down onto one knee and asked her to marry him. "I'm only 13 years old," she said abruptly. Soon looked at her and said, "No problem. The age for marriage in Korea is 13. So what do you say?" Vanang shrugged her shoulders and said, Well, I have always wanted to marry a Korean, so yes. The boy smiled and held her tightly as they walked through to the next room. Inside the room was about 20 chairs and a podium at one end. "What are we doing in here?" asked Van Ang. The boy smiled again and said, "This is a church. We can be married in just 5 minutes." Van Ang wanted her parents and family to see her special day, but she knew that they would not agree because of her age, and so the wedding continued. A few minutes later, she was Mrs. Soon Be Gone, and she had never felt happier. Then her new husband explained that he wanted them to travel back to his home immediately, and they got into a taxi and started the journey. Hours passed, and they were still driving. "Where do you live?" she asked. "Almost there," he answered in an excited voice. Then, to her horror, she saw her new home. It was a small wooden hut in the middle of a rice field. "Do you love it?" he asked in a happy voice. "We can work in the field together, and you will not even notice my parents, grandparents, or my 8 brothers and sisters." She is the only one who works in the field. They all say that they're too weak or sick to work, so Van Ang spends all day, every day, picking rice, and the tears flow down her cheeks faster than the rice flows into the basket. The end. Thanks for listening. See you next time.